Although the Ren Immortal realm was revered, during the peak of the four great sacred sects, when all four sacred emperors were present, even the Ren Immortal realm had to show some respect. Whenever a new emperor emerged from any of the sects, the Immortal realm would send congratulatory gifts. At that time, there was no cultivation alliance. Instead, there was only the Kungsu realm. Before the collapse of the Ren Immortal realm, Kungsu realm was directly under the Immortal realm's jurisdiction and was responsible for managing all qi refiners in the lower realms. However, the strength of the four great sacred sects, combined with certain special circumstances, allowed the coexistence of the four sacred sects and Kungsu realm within the Kungsu star domain. The appearance of each sacred emperor was enough to cause vast fluctuations in primordial energy, especially for those with great powers. These changes were distinctly observable. At this moment, with the successful completion of Wang Lin's 9 mystic transformation, the primordial energy centered around the Vermilion Bird sacred sect began to ripple outward, gradually echoing throughout the entire Alliance star domain. Luo Tian, who controlled the western and northern regions of the Alliance star domain, had emissaries from the Thunder God Hall visible everywhere. After successfully annexing the two regions, the Thunder God Hall became the supreme power here. Particularly, the massive black palaces, each as large as a small mountain, floated through the starry sky, slowly advancing. At the entrance of almost every palace, a large number of Luo Tian cultivators were gathered. From a distance, these palaces seemed to number in the hundreds, forming an endless military force, and their direction was clearly aimed at the central positions held by the various factions in the alliance. Though the cultivators were many, there was no sound of chatter. Only the shrill whistle of flying swords filled the air. After years of battle, the Luo Tian cultivators had undergone significant changes. The once naive appeared to have disappeared, replaced instead by a chilling aura of slaughter. At this moment, as the fluctuations of the primordial energy spread from these cultivators, it was difficult for those with such cultivation to detect the subtle changes in the energy. However, deep within a grand palace nearly the size of 10 large halls, floating in mid-air, Yen Lazy, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. At the moment he opened his eyes, more than 10 elderly figures around him also opened and closed their eyes in unison, their gazes flashing with brilliance. The fluctuations of primordial energy are coming from the eastern part of the Alliance star domain, one elder said slowly. Could it be that some precious treasure has emerged in the eastern part of the Alliance? Yen Lazy muttered, a contemplative expression crossing his face before he shook his head. This fluctuation is not from the emergence of a treasure. The eastern part of the Alliance is controlled by the four sacred sects. Could it be a new sacred emperor has appeared? Yen Lazy's eyes gleamed with uncertainty, as he had been away from the Alliance for far too long. The four sacred sects? Even the Cultivation Alliance is no match for us. This small sect, under the pressure of our Luo Tian army, will definitely collapse. A red-haired elder within the palace sneered arrogantly. The four sacred sects are far more formidable than you think. This fluctuation may very well indicate the birth of a new emperor. The question is, which sect's new emperor is it? Yen Lazy glanced at the red-haired elder and said solemnly. For some reason, a feeling of unease rose within him in response to the fluctuations in primordial energy. The sensation was subtle but extremely clear. Similarly, another individual, an elder in black, had stepped out from the entrance of Luo Tian's western domain. He immediately raised his head, gazing toward the distance. His eyes seemed capable of piercing through the entire star domain, revealing a hint of brilliance. The new emperor of the four sacred sects. This fluctuation contains a trace of fire essence. It must be the Vermilion Bird sacred emperor. In that case, this spectacle will be even more interesting. Wuji, I refuse to believe that with the Alliance star domain in such chaos, you still have not shown yourself. In the southern part of the Alliance star domain, within the territory of the Corpsine sect, there was a massive black coffin. The 8 corners of this coffin were each bound with iron chains that extended and connected to another coffin. Amidst the dense arrangement of countless coffins, they spread out like a spider's web. Surrounding these coffins were countless cultivation stars, moved here by unknown mystical means, circling in layers. At this moment, As the waves of primordial energy spread, the deepest coffin in this area suddenly emitted a faint sound of surprise. A new sacred emperor has emerged from the four sacred sects. Interesting. As his voice echoed, the surrounding coffins all began to emit sounds, as if nails were scraping against their covers. The noise pierced the ears, causing a feeling as if one's soul was being torn apart. Even the surrounding starry sky began to crack. The fluctuations of primordial energy were also felt by the four major factions of the Cultivation Alliance. While the other three factions can be left aside for now, the largest faction among them was the Cloudrise Nation, a former 8th-level cultivation nation. It controlled dozens of planets, arranged in a formation pattern. On its main star, the Cloudrise sect was located, and the entire Cloudrise sect was the overlord of Cloudrise Nation. In the secret chamber of the Cloudrise sect's rear mountain, an elderly man with white hair sat cross-legged. He looked kind and benevolent, exuding a compassionate aura. At this moment, as the waves of primordial energy reverberated through the heavens and earth, the elderly man opened his eyes. After a long silence, he softly spoke, "Emoji." Upon hearing his words, ripples appeared in the air before him. A bald man dressed in a blue robe stepped out of the ripples. He cupped his fists and respectfully said, "Emoji greets master. The four sacred sects have a new sacred emperor. Go and retrieve 5 supreme immortal pills, 100 common immortal pills, 1,000 immortal treasures, and the essence spirit I refined 5 years ago. Deliver them as congratulations." That essence spirit. Emoji looked up at the old man, hesitating to speak, then simply nodded. That essence spirit is incredibly precious, but it must be part of Cloudrise Nation's tribute. I've divined that you share some past acquaintance with the newly appointed sacred emperor. Strengthening ties with him is crucial for our nation, the old man said softly. Past acquaintance? Emoji had few friends in his life. Hearing this, he didn't inquire further. He bowed and took his leave. At that very moment, figures from all directions within the Four Saints sect sped toward the Vermilion Bird sacred sect. The skies above the sect blazed with fire, and cries of sacred emperor rang out, wave upon wave, reaching their peak. Wang Lin exhaled deeply, lifting his gaze to the starry sky, filled with thunder and fire. Not far behind him, the Vermilion Sacred Emperor's eyes were filled with excitement. He laughed heartily and nodded. Good. My Vermilion Bird sacred sect finally has a new sacred emperor. I can now depart with a smile. He raised his right hand and made a grasping motion in the void. Instantly, a rift tore open before him, from which 3 streams of light shot out. Wang Lin, as the sacred emperor of the Vermilion Bird sacred sect, you must possess 3 items. The first, this cloak, is passed down by the emperors of old. The elder pointed at one of the streams of light, which flew straight toward Wang Lin. Before Wang Lin, the light transformed into a white cloak entwined with 9 vermilion birds, exuding an aura of majesty. I took off this cloak during my 3rd heavenly decay. I never imagined I would never wear it again. Today, I pass it on to you, the old emperor said with a hint of melancholy. As Wang Lin touched the cloak, it immediately emitted a radiant glow that enveloped his entire body. When the light faded, the cloak was already draped over him. With his white hair, crimson armor, and now the flowing cloak, Wang Lin exuded a strange and commanding aura. Even more, from the cloak, he could distinctly sense a deep, ancient presence. This garment seemed to have existed for an eternity. The second item is the emblem of all our sacred emperors, the Vermilion Bird Spirit. The old emperor waved his hand, and the second stream of light flew toward Wang Lin. As it landed in Wang Lin's grasp, the light transformed into a flame-shaped token. It was no larger than his palm, yet the moment he held it, he felt a surge of fire essence flow into him. Like the cloak, it was steeped in the weight of endless years. The third item, the elder continued, is the most important ancient sacred artifact of our Vermilion Bird sacred sect. The third stream of light landed in Wang Lin's hand, transforming into a white stone. Examining it up close, Wang Lin saw countless runes flickering continuously on the surface of the stone. Each flicker made the heat it radiated grow stronger. The runes seemed to have never ceased flashing since time immemorial, and their light reflected in Wang Lin's eyes, filling them with solemnity. A storm raged within his heart as he took a deep breath and clutched the stone. From it, he faintly sensed a presence, one that reminded him of heaven defying. The aura was faint, but undeniably real. Had he not held it himself, it would have been nearly impossible to detect. There's still the sacred artifact blood between the brows of Qing Lin's physical body. You may retrieve it at any time, the old sacred emperor said with a warm look in his eyes. These 3 items were left behind by the first sacred emperor of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect. Only those who succeed the title may inherit them. You must preserve them well. The old emperor struggled to rise. His body was frail, and even this small motion deepened the pain etched on his face. Yet the joy and relief in his eyes made him forget the agony. Once standing, he beckoned Wang Lin over, his gaze gentle. Wang Lin silently stepped closer. The old man rested his right hand atop Wang Lin's head and said quietly, "From this day forth, you are the sacred emperor. Go meet your people. As for me, I shall enter meditation for the final time. Come see me again in 7 days." Wang Lin looked at the old emperor, as though wanting to speak, but in the end, he only nodded, casting a deep glance at the elder before turning to leave. Crimson armor, a white cloak, long white hair, a white vermilion bird totem. All of it combined to form an aura uniquely Wang Lin's. As he walked away, that aura slowly faded into the distance. With a look of satisfaction, the old man closed his eyes and began to meditate. As Wang Lin advanced, nearly every cultivator on the cultivation star of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect soared into the air. Their cries of Sacred Emperor shook the heavens. Those cries carried generations of suppressed emotion and long-awaited hope from the people of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect. More and more cultivators joined behind Wang Lin. Among the younger disciples especially, their gazes toward him were filled with deep respect. Wang Lin continued forward, and the ranks behind him steadily grew. "Master!" An excited shout mixed with the voices of the people of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect caused Wang Lin's steps to pause. When he looked up, he saw Reggie and Datu coming like a rainbow. Smiling, Wang Lin nodded at the 2 of them. As he continued forward, a loud and ecstatic laugh echoed, and Situnan walked up, embracing Wang Lin tightly, laughing heartily. "Good lad, you've finally come out." Wang Lin's smile grew even wider. Situnan's injuries had completely healed, and his cultivation had progressed. Even the toxins had been suppressed. Following Situnan, the silver-clad woman and floating wind master came forward. The silver-clad woman silently followed behind Wang Lin, while floating wind master showed deep respect, his joy sincere. When Wang Lin reached the final main star of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect, the people behind him had already covered the sky. "Sacred Emperor! Sacred Emperor!" The voices that rang out shook the heavens, replacing all other sounds in the starry sky. This last main star of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect was the very planet where Ren Tao was located. As he listened to the cheers around him, his expression darkened, his eyes locked on Wang Lin with hatred. Beside him, Liao Yun glanced disdainfully at Ren Tao, then leapt into the air, flying toward Wang Lin, who was surrounded by countless people. With great reverence, he clasped his hands and said, "Liao Yun respectfully greets the Sacred Emperor." His expression revealed an intense passion. No one knew Wang Lin better than their people who had once ventured to the land of demonic spirits together. Especially Wang Lin's divine powers from that time had completely humbled those of the land of demonic spirits. Fengshan hesitated for a moment, then also leapt into the air, greeting him alongside Liao Yun. Along with the 2 of them, nearly all the people of this main star excitedly greeted Wang Lin. This stark contrast was immediately apparent between Ren Tao's gloomy demeanor and his few loyal supporters, who remained silent, compared to the rest of the tribe. "Wang Lin, I challenge you." Ren Tao suddenly lifted his head, staring at Wang Lin from afar, his voice filled with fury. He had no choice but to do this. If Wang Lin continued, he would have no hope of becoming the Sacred Emperor. In the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect, the Sacred Emperor was like the heavens. Anyone who opposed would become an enemy of the entire sect. However, There was a law in the sect that allowed Ren Tao to challenge Wang Lin at this moment. The shout reverberated through the starry sky, and the surroundings instantly quieted. All eyes turned to Ren Tao. Among them were some elders of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect, whose mission was to ensure Wang Lin smoothly became the Sacred Emperor and prevent any opposition. This was the direct order of the old Sacred Emperor. Ren Tao felt sweat dripping down his forehead as the gaze of so many people focused on him, causing his heart to tremble. But he couldn't care anymore. He fixed his eyes on Wang Lin and shouted, "Wang Lin, do you dare to accept my challenge? If you don't, you are unworthy of being the Sacred Emperor." The three elders behind Ren Tao silently took a step forward, standing around him. They looked up, glaring at the numerous elders in the starry sky. "Ren Tao, you have a lot of nerve. And you three, are you openly defying the order of the old Sacred Emperor?" An elder, tall and imposing, walked forward from the crowd. This elder was one of the shattered Nirvana elders from the land of demonic spirits. Elder Zhou, according to the laws of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect, when the Sacred Emperor passes on the mantle, all members have the right to challenge the Sacred Emperor, right? You ignorant fool. Elder Zhou's eyes flashed with cold light as he sneered mockingly, but did not make a move. Instead, he took a few steps back. It wasn't just this elder. Among the tens of thousands of Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect members present in the starry sky, everyone who had gone to the land of demonic spirits looked at Ren Tao with mocking gazes, some even showing pity. Under these gazes, Ren Tao's heart trembled. Over the past 3 years, he had heard many tales of Wang Lin's feats and the events in the land of demonic spirits, but he never believed them. Especially now, as he looked at Wang Lin and clearly sensed that his cultivation was only at the perfect glimpse of Nirvana stage, he was even more skeptical. He was about to speak when, at that moment, Wang Lin's cold gaze locked onto Ren Tao. The moment Wang Lin's gaze fell on him, Ren Tao shuddered, an inexplicable chill rising in his heart. Even the three elders behind him couldn't help but feel their eyes narrow. "To challenge me, there is no leaving alive. Do you still wish to?" Wang Lin's voice was calm, but the coldness in it made everyone who had witnessed his battle in the land of demonic spirits feel a chill in their hearts. They would never forget the force that tore apart the darkness of the world, nor the punch that could shatter the sky during his dream of returning to antiquity. Ren Tao's heart shook even more violently, and he had a vague premonition of something bad. But now that the arrow was on the bowstring, especially after observing Wang Lin's cultivation, which indeed appeared to be at the perfect glimpse of Nirvana stage, his expression twisted as he gritted his teeth and shouted, "Challenge." Wang Lin nodded. Although his clone and true self were separated, and his true self no longer possessed the formidable physical body, with Wang Lin's divine powers, one move of scatter beans to form soldiers could slay all pure Nirvana cultivators, and even shattered Nirvana cultivators would dare to fight. In fact, at this moment, the difference between having his true self or not was almost negligible. If there was any difference, it was that under his formidable physical body, Wang Lin's combat endurance would surpass everyone's expectations. Not to mention the special timing required for the use of Remnant Night. Wang Lin did not know that this divine ability, Remnant Night, had spread like wildfire throughout the Alliance Star Domain in the past 3 years, ever since the surviving members of the Cultivation Alliance in the land of demonic spirits had shared stories about it. Once Remnant Night was unleashed, Voidmaster would perish, Tian Yunzi's 3 avatars, 2 dead, 1 severely injured. Such feats had propelled Wang Lin to the top tier of cultivators. No matter what, you are a member of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect. I can grant you a fire cremation. Wang Lin waved his right hand, and at the moment his hand lifted, a ghostly spirit appeared behind him. 9 mystic transformations. The moment this spirit appeared, it caused an uproar among the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect members. In that instant, all gazes filled with even more intense excitement fell on Wang Lin. 9 mystic transformations, a divine ability only learned by the sacred emperors of each generation. Even Ren Tao's face turned pale immediately, but in the next instant, his eyes showed hatred and unwillingness. With a low growl, he formed a hand seal, and flames erupted from his body in a frenzy, surrounding him and forming a blurry armor. Wang Lin's gaze turned cold. As he waved his right hand, the spirit behind him merged into his arm, and with a single motion, Wang Lin's right hand pointed at Ren Tao in the void. Fire incineration. The cold voice echoed, carrying the majesty of controlling all the fire in the world. At that moment, anything related to fire was under Wang Lin's command. With the command, fire incineration, the flames surrounding Ren Tao trembled and suddenly rolled back toward him. In this crisis, the blurry armor around his body surged outward, and he shot forward like a flying sword, heading straight for Wang Lin. Ren Tao's heart trembled. He had never expected Wang Lin to control his flames. He knew this was his last chance. If he didn't heavily injure or kill Wang Lin with one sword, once the flames behind him engulfed him, he would inevitably fall into crisis once again. One strike is enough to take this man's life. Wang Lin's expression remained calm. He formed a seal with his right hand and pointed again at Ren Tao. This time, 9 mystic transformations was truly used in Wang Lin's body for the first time. In an instant, Wang Lin's entire right hand felt an intense heat. Activate the 3 lifetimes fire essence. With Wang Lin's indifferent words, his right hand pointed toward the void, and suddenly, Ren Tao, who was charging toward Wang Lin, froze. A mouthful of blood spurted from him, and a loud crash echoed from within his body. Ren Tao was instantly thrown backward. His eyes showed shock and fear, but even more so, confusion. Just as he retreated, another loud crash sounded from within his body, and blood mist burst forth. Within moments, he was reduced to a bloody mess. His body shattered into pieces with each booming sound. Blood exploded, and Ren Tao's essence spirit rushed out in panic. He was still bewildered, not understanding how Wang Lin's single finger had caused his body to collapse. But just as his essence spirit barely escaped, a devastating rumble sounded from within it. A destructive force, blending both fire and thunder, crashed through his essence spirit. In that instant, Ren Tao's entire essence spirit shattered. All of this was completed in the blink of an eye. To everyone's eyes, Wang Lin had only moved his fingers twice to annihilate Ren Tao. Throughout, Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. 9 mystic transformations did not disappoint him. As a technique cultivated only by the sacred emperors of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect, it was extraordinarily powerful. Perhaps it's because of the fusion with thunder. Its power is much stronger than I expected. Wang Lin's gaze swept over the 3 elders standing beside Ren Tao. One of them had reached the early shattered nirvana stage, while the other 2 were at the late pure nirvana stage. Do you 3 also wish to challenge me? Wang Lin's right eye glowed with a white flame as he fixed his gaze on the 3 elders. One of the elders stared at Wang Lin. Though his expression remained calm, his heart was filled with shock. He could easily kill Ren Tao with 2 fingers, but he was a shattered nirvana cultivator, while Wang Lin was clearly only at the perfect glimpse of nirvana stage. This made him realize the importance of Wang Lin, and even more so, 9 mystic transformations. The elder's mind shifted. He looked around and saw that almost all the elders of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect in the starry sky were now focused on him. An invisible pressure filled the air, and after a moment of silence, the elder spoke calmly. Greetings, Sacred Emperor. At these words, the 2 elders beside him let out a sigh of relief, and they both cupped their fists and said, Greetings, Sacred Emperor. What followed were the clan members who obeyed the orders of the 3 elders. One by one, their expressions were respectful, and they all greeted in unison. Greetings, Sacred Emperor. In an instant, the voices of nearly all the clan members in the starry sky echoed at the same time. The voices of tens of thousands of people spread, instantly reverberating like the roar of a thunderous celestial storm. Wang Lin's expression remained calm. Despite being enveloped by the voices of greeting, he understood that among these people, many were likely discontented. After all, his cultivation was not enough to intimidate all the members of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect. However, he paid no attention to such matters. Wang Lin's heart was not with the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect. At this moment, amidst the reverberating voices of greeting, surrounded by many clan members of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect, there were a few who were not present, and their hearts were filled with complexity. The first was Pagoda Mountain. He did not go to meet Wang Lin, but instead remained where he had been, silently gazing at the sky. Although he could not see Wang Lin from his position on the cultivation star, he could vaguely sense the repeated voices of greeting coming from the distant starry sky. His expression was very complicated. After a long while, he sighed deeply and closed his eyes, continuing to meditate. Yet, the turmoil in his heart could not calm down. Apart from him, there was another person in a similar state. This person was sitting on a city wall of a cultivation star, surrounded by 7 or 8 scattered wine flasks. He grabbed one, took a large gulp, and his expression showed sadness. Compared to the bustling scene around Wang Lin, this old man appeared extremely desolate, as if indifferent to everything. Behind him, Xun'er quietly accompanied him. In addition to Pagoda Mountain and Elder Chen Dao, there was another person whose heart was extremely complicated in this blazing star domain. That person was Su Ligua. He was in the center of a fiery vortex, and his curses echoed once again, seemingly tireless. Damned Wang Lin, why haven't you released your grandfather Su yet? Just you wait. You wait for Grandpa Su. Over the next 2 days, the other elders of the 3 sacred sects arrived, congratulating Wang Lin on becoming the sacred emperor of the Vermilion Bird. In an instant, the entire Vermilion Bird sacred sect was filled with excitement. Wang Lin was very courteous to the elders of the Azure Dragon, Black Tortoise, and White Tiger sects. The 4 sacred sects were originally of the same root, and many of the elders of these 3 sects had witnessed Wang Lin's divine powers in the land of demonic spirits. After meeting him, they naturally did not treat him arrogantly just because he was a glimpse of Nirvana cultivator. After some polite conversation, the elders of the 3 sects were assigned to accommodations. The elders of the 3 sects were very concerned about Wang Lin, the new sacred emperor. In particular, the 3 great elders of the Azure Dragon sacred sect treated Wang Lin with great respect. When Wang Lin informed the Vermilion Bird sacred emperor of the news about the Azure Dragon sacred emperor 3 years ago, they were already aware of the matter and were extremely grateful for the news Wang Lin brought. The ascension of the sacred emperor required a grand ceremony, which was a tradition of the 4 sacred sects. Wang Lin could not change this, and the ceremony date was set for the 6th day. These few days, Wang Lin should have been very busy, with little time to rest. He had to familiarize himself with everything concerning the Vermilion Bird sacred sect, especially since the elders of the Vermilion Bird sacred sect did not completely approve of Wang Lin. They had only tacitly agreed to his ascension due to the orders of the old sacred emperor. But Wang Lin did not act as expected. The reason he agreed to become the sacred emperor of the Vermilion Bird sacred sect was actually just a transaction with the old sacred emperor. In the following 3 years, the old sacred emperor imparted everything he knew, a great favor, though with a transactional element. For Wang Lin, such a favor needed to be repaid. However, Wang Lin knew that his own affairs would not allow him to stay in one place for long. Especially over the past 3 years, whenever he meditated, his heart was unsettled, as though an ominous sensation was growing stronger. This feeling might have been bearable if it had happened only once or twice, but as time passed, Wang Lin had experienced this sensation no less than 10 times in the last 3 years. Moreover, it had become clearer, almost as if it was coming from the Vermilion Bird star. Wang Lin knew that as his cultivation increased, his ability to sense impending danger had also grown stronger. Clearly, this rising sense of crisis was coming from Tua's son. Over 1,000 years ago, when he left the land of the ancient gods, the roar of Tua's son had faintly echoed in Wang Lin's mind. One day, I will come for you, and take back Tu Si's memory inheritance. Tua's son is probably about to break free soon. Wang Lin sat cross-legged on a stone at the edge of a volcanic crater on the main star. Below, the volcano occasionally erupted with thick smoke, its scorching heat pervading the air. Tua's sun hung over Wang Lin like a sword, ready to strike at any moment. Throughout the past 1,000 years, Wang Lin had never been able to ignore this threat. Moreover, as his cultivation reached the 5-star level, combined with the memory inheritance of the 8-star ancient god, Wang Lin had conducted a thorough analysis of Tua's strength. The result of this analysis shook his soul. With such a powerful enemy potentially breaking free at any time to search for him across the world, Wang Lin knew he could never remain in the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect in peace. Otherwise, the only outcome will be dragging the Four Saints sect into it, leading to its destruction at the hands of Tuo Sun. After more than 1,000 years of cultivation, Wang Lin was no longer the mere foundation establishment cultivator he once was. Tuo Sun might be strong, but Wang Lin was also not without preparation. If immortal Emperor Qing Lin could be revived, I wonder how he would compare to Tusa. Wang Lin's gaze flickered, and he glanced at the land below. The immortal cultivation star within the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect was burning, and from a distance, all he could see was a sea of red. I repay the old Sacred Emperor's grace by rescuing the Azure Dragon Sacred Emperor for now. If I can avoid Tuo Sun's pursuit and attain the cultivation to defeat him, then I will repay the old Sacred Emperor's kindness fully, ensuring the safety of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect and restoring the former prosperity. If I die under Tuo Sun's hands, Wang Lin fell silent, gazing at the heavens, a bitter expression on his face. Tuo Sun, I won't let him escape so easily. Everyone in this world has greed, not knowing how many people an 8-star ancient god can tempt. A dark smile curled on Wang Lin's lips. At that moment, a long flame streaked across the sky in the distance. As it neared Wang Lin's position, about 10 paces ahead, the flame dissipated into a red-robed elder. The elder's expression was calm as he glanced at Wang Lin and spoke slowly. Your Majesty, the Corpsine sect, Luo Tian, and the alliance from the Cloudrise Nation have sent envoys. They are waiting in the rear hall of the Vermilion Bird. Shall we receive them? This elder was not one of the 6 who had gone to the land of demonic spirits years ago. Wang Lin only knew that his surname was Su and that he was at the mid-Shattered Nirvana stage. He held great prestige among the Shattered Nirvana elders of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect. In the past few days, many envoys from the alliance had come to congratulate. Wang Lin had refused to meet with them, leaving the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect's elders and clansmen to handle the reception. As for Luo Tian and the Corpsine sect, this was the first time they had sent representatives. After a moment of contemplation, Wang Lin recalled his plan to deal with Tuo Sun and decided to change his mind about meeting the envoys. Let them in. Wang Lin stood up and said calmly. The elder glanced at Wang Lin and said flatly, Su wishes to ask, after taking over, what are your Majesty's plans? This is not just my question, but a concern shared by many of the elders. We hope your Majesty can answer us directly. Rescue the Azure Dragon Sacred Emperor, Wang Lin said, then turned without another glance at the elder. He took a step forward, transforming into a long rainbow and shooting toward the distance. The elder surnamed Su was taken aback, quickly turning to look at the place where Wang Lin had vanished. His expression changed drastically. The Azure Dragon Sacred Emperor. He gasped, and any further questions vanished from his mind. His heart was completely shaken by these 4 words. Apart from the old Sacred Emperor and the 3 elders of the Azure Dragon Sacred Sect, no one else knew about the Azure Dragon Sacred Emperor's situation. The shock in Su's heart was like a storm. For the first time, he felt an unfathomable aura from Wang Lin. The rear hall of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect was built entirely from crimson jade. From afar, it was strikingly visible, surrounded by many crimson trees. Even the paths on the ground were all bathed in red. Hot air poured from the hall, filling the surrounding area. Inside the hall, 3 people were seated, 2 men and 1 woman. The woman was stunning, wearing a blue silk dress that revealed a hint of her chest, captivating in both beauty and grace. Her alluring eyes flickered with an inner charm. She had been closely observing the 2 men nearby, one an ancient elder, the other a bald man. The elder wore a red robe and exuded authority even without saying a word. His eyes were closed, but the surrounding air was distorted, revealing his immense cultivation. The bald man seemed ordinary, wearing a simple blue robe. His expression was calm, though occasionally a hint of confusion flashed across his eyes, disappearing almost immediately. However, the woman immediately noticed that whenever the bald man appeared confused, the primordial energy in the hall would momentarily stagnate. If Wang Lin were there, he would immediately recognize the elder and the bald man. They were people he knew well. At that moment, a younger clan member from the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect entered, bringing tea and fruit, placing them beside the three, and then withdrew. The woman picked up her teacup, blowing on it lightly, then looked at the elder and smiled. This must be Senior Lai Yunzi from the Luo Tian Star Domain. I am Li Yingji from the Corpsine sect. It's an honor to meet you. When Lai Yunzi heard this, his eyes flashed with a brief gleam of light. Then he gave her a cold glance and said flatly, I am indeed Lai Yunzi. The woman smiled and took a sip of tea, placing the cup down before saying with a light laugh, Senior Lai Yunzi is renowned in Luo Tian. I see that Luo Tian Star Domain has good relations with the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect, sending envoys to congratulate the Sacred Emperor. It seems there is a strong bond between us. You, as a core disciple of the Corpsine sect, have already achieved the pure nirvana cultivation at such a young age. It is rumored that you possess 4 corpse puppets, 3 of which have abilities no weaker than shattered nirvana. The fact that the Corpsine sect has allowed you to come here shows just how much they value the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect, said Lai Yunzi calmly. However, when the words fell upon the ears of the alluring woman, a brief, barely noticeable flicker flashed in her eyes. This Taoist friend must be from the Alliance. May I ask what your name is? The alluring woman changed the subject, turning her gaze toward the bald man. The bald man replied indifferently, from Cloudrise Nation, Emoji. Emoji. The alluring woman furrowed her brows, clearly unfamiliar with the name. But Lai Yunzi's eyes suddenly narrowed, and he turned to look at the bald man. After staring at him for a few moments, he slowly said, So you are Emoji. The bald man gave a slight smile, cupped his hands in respect to Lai Yunzi, and said, Emoji greets Senior. Emo Taoist, Senior Lai Yunzi. Do you know anything about this new sacred emperor of the Vermilion Bird sect? The alluring woman hesitated for a moment before asking. I only know that this person is extremely arrogant. All those who went to congratulate him previously were denied entry to meet him. Moreover, the 4 sacred sects have said nothing about his name. He is quite mysterious, said Lai Yunzi, picking up a teacup, glancing at it, and setting it back down. He had come to the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect on orders from the Thunder Immortal Palace. Aside from offering his congratulations, he also had a deeper purpose. He needed to contact the new Sacred Emperor directly. I actually have some news. 3 years ago, during the battle at the Immortal Emperor Qinglin's abode, the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect reportedly took someone with them. The alluring woman spoke softly. Lai Yunzi hummed lightly, knowing full well about this matter. He also knew who the person was. Luo Tian had investigated this, and although Yin Lazy had thought the possibility was high, no one else agreed, eliminating the possibility that the person was the new Sacred Emperor. After all, the whole situation was too bizarre. That person? Not worthy of becoming Sacred Emperor. Lai Yunzi's eyes flashed with a trace of disdain. If it hadn't been for that person bringing Qing Shui back, he would have captured him long ago, turning him into a puppet to help him unravel the secrets of the battle calligraphy. If Wang Lin were the new Sacred Emperor, Lai Yunzi would never believe it. Not for a second. Thinking of Qing Shui, Lai Yunzi felt a sense of relief. Qing Shui's disappearance was within his expectations. In fact, he even knew that the upheaval at the Alliance's headquarters was directly related to Qing Shui. This time, he had come to the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect not only for Luo Tian's orders, but also for a personal motive. He planned to use Luo Tian's name to take Wang Lin from the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect. In his mind, when the Vermilion Bird Sect took Wang Lin 3 years ago, they must have had their reasons. 3 years was enough time for them to have gained enough value from Wang Lin. Now, Wang Lin probably held little value for the Vermilion Bird Sect, and taking him away should not be too difficult. Oh, it is said that this person used a spell to kill Void Master, and even severely injured 2 of Tian Yunzi's 3 avatars. Why does Senior Lai Yunzi think he is unworthy? Back then, the Vermilion Bird sect sent a great force, and even the true spirit of the Vermilion Bird led the way. The alluring woman asked softly, looking at Lai Yunzi. This person just met with me before going to Qinglin's abode. His cultivation is clear to me, Lai Yunzi said calmly. He did not believe for a second that Wang Lin could have undergone such a drastic change. To him, it was just a rumor. The alluring woman's brow furrowed. The Corpsine sect had pieced together all the clues and believed that Wang Lin, who had gained great fame at the immortal Emperor Qinglin's abode, was the new sacred emperor of the Vermilion Bird sect. However, Lai Yunzi's words now cast doubt on that. Is it really Wang Lin you are talking about? Emoji suddenly spoke. At that moment, Lai Yunzi suddenly raised his head and stared toward the entrance of the hall, his expression turning somewhat strange. Emoji followed suit and looked toward the entrance. Finally, the alluring woman turned as well. Just as all three of their gazes converged on the entrance of the hall, a scorching aura surged in from outside, pulling the heavenly fire essence from within the hall, creating a whirlpool of energy that swept through the room. At that moment, the fire essence within the hall seemed to come alive, swirling and spreading out as if bowing in reverence. Through their eyes, a figure slowly walked into the hall. The person wore a full set of crimson armor that concealed their face, leaving only a head of white hair exposed. Behind them was a white cape, matching the white vermilion bird totem on the armor, exuding a powerful aura. The sound of clanking echoed as the armored figure gradually walked into the grand hall. Without even glancing at the three individuals, he walked forward, his cloak billowing with his white hair, stirring an unimaginable wave of heat that spread throughout the hall in an instant. The fire essence of heaven and earth in this place immediately began to boil, surrounding the armored figure and forming a vortex of flames. In that moment, an intense oppressive aura suddenly filled the hall. It wasn't just the fire essence within the hall that was disturbed, but all the fire essence within the planet, the star domain, and the entire heavens seemed to gather around this person's body like a storm, as if he was the center of everything. With the sudden shift in the heavenly and earthly energies, a wave of celestial might spread out. Behind the armored figure, four cultivators entered, all elderly, and each at the shattered nirvana stage. They were dressed in red robes, though the color was noticeably different from Lai Kongzi's attire, one brighter, the other darker. The four elders followed the armored figure into the hall, standing beside him. They calmly watched the three individuals. The armored figure reached the center of the hall, his cloak swirling as he sat down. His eyes, like flames, pierced through his armor and fell on the three people. In that moment, he radiated an overwhelming authority, and with the surrounding energy of heaven and earth, he blocked any attempts at divine sense detection. Moreover, even if someone tried to pierce through the energy field surrounding him, the cloak of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect made it nearly impossible to discern Wang Lin's appearance. The hall was silent. The arrival of this armored figure was so shocking that it stirred the fire essence of heaven and earth. The alluring woman on the side of the hall began to sweat. Sitting there felt like being trapped inside a furnace. Previously, with her cultivation, she wouldn't have been affected, but now, with the appearance of the armored figure, the hall had become the center of the fire essence, and even she, with her cultivation, was struggling to endure. Junior Liangji of the Corpsine sect pays respects to the Vermilion Bird Sacred Emperor, the woman said, suppressing her contempt, standing up in the face of the oppressive aura, her expression respectful, as though greeting a senior from her sect. What level of cultivation does this Vermilion Bird Sacred Emperor possess to create such a tremendous pressure? She thought, shocked. Emoji looked at the armored figure, his eyes filled with strange light, though he was uncertain. Under the pressure, he stood up and respectfully cupped his hands. Mog of Cloudrise Nation pays respects to the Vermilion Bird's Sacred Emperor. The armored figure scanned him briefly, then his gaze lingered on Lai Yunzi. Lai Yunzi took a deep breath, stood up, and calmly cupped his hands. I am Lai Yunzi of the Luo Tian Battle family, here on behalf of the Luo Tian Thunder Immortal Palace to congratulate your majesty on ascending as the Vermilion Bird's Sacred Emperor. The armored figure's gaze lingered on Lai Yunzi longer than the others. It seemed as though his face might even twitch, faintly hinting at a smile, though it was unclear whether it was one of coldness or kindness. Lai Yunzi's heart skipped a beat. Under the gaze of the new Sacred Emperor, he inexplicably felt a sense of unease, especially with the four shattered Nirvana elders standing near the Emperor, all of them now looking in his direction. Lai Yunzi. The voice of the armored figure came slowly, altered by the armor, and became ethereal as it pierced through the vortex of fire essence surrounding his body. Lai Yunzi's unease deepened. He took a step back, his voice heavy. "Your Majesty, do you recognize me?" The armored figure stared at him for a moment before withdrawing his gaze and turning to Emoji. Emoji suppressed the doubts in his heart and cupped his hands again. "Your Majesty, I represent Cloudrise Nation in congratulating the birth of the new emperor of the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect. Following my master's orders, I bring this gift." As he spoke, he reached into the air with his right hand. Immediately, a rift appeared in front of him. However, the rift was unstable, clearly disturbed by the energy within the hall. Just as the rift seemed on the verge of collapsing, the armored figure raised his right hand and pointed. Instantly, the fire essence outside the rift dispersed, stabilizing the crack. This scene immediately caused the alluring woman's pupils to contract. Even Lai Yunzi's gaze sharpened. Emoji, without showing any change in expression, took out the prepared gifts, pills, immortal treasures, and other items, placing them in front of him. Several Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect disciples entered the hall to stand by. The final item Emoji produced was a small flag, green and blue interwoven. As soon as the flag appeared, a chill spread rapidly around it, causing even the surrounding fire essence to pause. The armored figure's eyes narrowed, fixating on the small flag, his eyes filled with a peculiar light. "This item was specifically entrusted by my master to be presented to your Majesty. It is the soul of an ancient spirit sealed and refined by my master hundreds of years ago." Wang Lin reached into the air with his right hand, taking hold of the flag. After examining it carefully, he looked at Emoji and said in a deep voice, "Thank you." Upon hearing this simple "thank you," Emoji's eyes gleamed with a sharp light. He studied Wang Lin for a moment before saying nothing further. Lai Yunzi, representing the Luo Tian Thunder Immortal Palace, also brought a gift, though its value did not cause Wang Lin to stir. After presenting it, Lai Yunzi's gaze flickered as he spoke in a low voice. "Your Majesty, I represent the Thunder Immortal Palace and have something personal to discuss, aside from official matters." Seeing the new Sacred Emperor's gaze turn toward him, Lai Yunzi hesitated for a moment before speaking. 3 years ago, the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect took a person from Qing Lin Immortal Mansion, named Wang Lin. If the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect no longer has use for him, may I take him with me? As soon as the words were spoken, the 4 elderly figures beside the armored man were all stunned, simultaneously turning their gazes toward Lai Kongzi. "You want Wang Lin?" The armored man looked at Liao Yunzi and slowly said,